Well, hello there. My name is Christopher Scott, and I serve as a small groups pastor of a local church. And in this video, I want to talk to you about how maybe you're a small group facilitator, you lead a Bible study, you teach a Sunday school class, and I want to teach you about how when you have 9 or more people in your small group, you want to consider subgrouping your small group. Meaning, you got 9 or more people come to your group, you got a good discussion time, but you want to make sure everybody gets a chance to share and talk. So you're going to want to put them into smaller groups, right? Subgroup your small group. So you might do 3 groups of 3 for a period of time. So in this video, I want to talk to you about that. And I want to encourage you to consider subgrouping your small group, because in small groups, we want people to be talking, to be sharing, to talk about what they're learning, to talk about how they're applying what they're learning and how their life is changing based on what they're learning. And you want to do that as much as possible. And so there's 6 reasons why you want to subgroup your small group, right? 6 reasons you want to subgroup your small group. Number 1, it encourages everyone to participate. It encourages everyone to participate. At our church, we use LIFE, life, to describe the different core values of our small groups. And the F stands for fellowshipping, right? And I got a video up there that you can learn more about fellowshipping and what that means in our groups. But basically, we want to cultivate authenticity, right? We want a trusting transparency in our groups that is encouraged but not pushed, right? And so when you put people into smaller subgroups, it encourages that authenticity and that transparency to develop in a way that it can't always develop if you got 9 or more people in the group, okay? Second reason you want to consider subgrouping your small group is that it limits discussion dominators. It limits discussion dominators. Each group is going to always have that 1 or 2 people that are really passionate and really excited about the topic, and they kind of dominate the discussion that's going on. And so when you subgroup your small group, it helps to limit the people that dominate the discussion in that way. Number 3, it promotes passive listeners to active participants, right? It promotes passive listeners to active participants, meaning there's some people that they show up to your group week after week after week, and there's 9 or more people there, and they don't really talk much or share much. Maybe they're a little too shy to speak up. Maybe they're not very assertive to insert their thoughts when they want to. But when you subgroup them into smaller groups, it helps promote those passive listeners to active participants. The 4th reason you want to consider subgrouping your small group is it provides more accountability for application, okay? It provides more accountability for application. And application is really big for me when I work with our small groups. I got a whole video up there about how to make application more important than completion, okay? But when you put your people into smaller subgroups of 3 or 4 people, it provides more of that accountability for application because everybody's talking about what they're going to do as a result of the lesson that they're doing, okay? The 5th reason that you want to consider subgrouping your small group is that it develops potential small group facilitators. It develops potential future small group facilitators, right? What better way to start to train somebody and work them into the idea of facilitating their own small group than by doing it with just 3 or 4 people in a subgrouped small group, right? And if there's one thing I know is that things change, okay? People's lives change, their jobs change, their family situations change. They have to move sometimes for work. They have to move sometimes because of their family. And so let's say somebody's in your group. They've been there for 2 or 3 years. You've started to have them, facilitate the small group, the subgroup part of your small group, and then that person's job schedule changes. He can no longer attend your group. But he says, you know what, I've facilitated that little subgroup group for a couple years now. Maybe I'll just start my own group at a new time that works for my schedule. Or maybe somebody has to move out of state to another location because of their job, and they find a local church and they decide they want to start a small group and facilitate it because they were able to do that in a small, safe environment as part of your group, okay? So that's the 5th reason you want to subgroup your small group, is that it provides training for potential new small group facilitators. The 6th reason you want to subgroup your small group is it allows your group to grow big yet still remain small, okay? It allows your group to grow big yet still remain small. The The people that do a good job with small groups tend to have groups that are growing because people want to invite people they know into the group. And that can sometimes be difficult because not everybody gets a chance to talk. But when you subgroup your small group, it gives everybody a chance to talk and discuss what they're learning and going on. So even though your group is growing big, it still remains small when you subgroup and put people into smaller groups, okay? So those are 6 reasons why you want to subgroup your small group. It encourages everyone to participate. It limits discussion dominators. It promotes passive listeners to active participants. It provides more accountability for application. It develops new potential small group facilitators, and it allows your group to grow big yet still remain small. But how do you subgroup your small group, right? So here's a few basic ways that you subgroup your small group, right? How you're going to subgroup your small group and go about it. So the format that you're going to want to have for your small group as a whole is you always want to start the group together. Start the group together. If you got, let's say you got 9 people in your group, you're going to start with all 9 people together. Maybe you're going to do the unifying question, read the Bible together, watch your DVD teaching, do that all together. Then you're going to want to subgroup into smaller groups. So you take those 9 people and you divide them into 3 groups of 3, okay? And you spend some time in those subgrouped small groups. Then you want to end the group together, all together. So you start together, you subgroup into 3 smaller groups, then you bring everybody back together as a group to maybe wrap up with prayer, a little bit of time. What did everybody like? What was their favorite part of that passage? Something like that, okay? And so what does that look like in your group? Let's say you're doing a verse-by-verse Bible study, right? So at our church, I encourage our groups to use the Wearsby Bible Study Guides. I got some videos up there about how to use those. But let's say you got 9 people in your group, you're using a Wearsby Bible Study Guide, and you want to subgroup that group. So you're going to start with the unifying question in your group. You're going to want to read the passage together as a group, as a whole, and then you're going to do some of the questions. But then for some of the time of that questions, you can subgroup your small group, preferably when you're doing the application-based questions. And in the Wearsby Guides, it's the looking inward and going forward sections. Those are application-based questions. Those are great questions to subgroup your small group into smaller groups, right? So for the looking inward and the going forward sections, that's the personal application questions in the study guide. Those are great questions to subgroup your small group and have them each cover those questions because they're application based, and that's what we're shooting for, okay? And then so you start your group together, you read the passage, you do the unifying question, you do a few questions, you subgroup for those personal application questions. Then you want to come back together at the end of the group, maybe do some prayer time, ask for them, maybe someone wants to share their 1 or 2 things they're going to do as a result of what they talked about in their subgroup. So, or maybe you're doing the Chip Ingram Living on the Edge Bible studies that our church encourages our groups to use. I got some videos up there again about how to use those guides. So for those, it looks a little different. You're going to start by doing the unifying question all together as a group. You watch the DVD all together as a group, and then you can do some of the questions in the study guide, but I encourage you, there's usually a part of the study guide called BIO, B-I-O, which means coming before God, doing life in community, and being on mission, BIO, right? So it's more of the kind of the personal application again. Those bio questions are great questions to subgroup your small group using, okay? So you start together watching the DVD, you do the unifying question, you do a few questions maybe together as a group, but then when you come to those bio questions, that's a great set of questions to subgroup the group into smaller groups, and then you come back together, wrap it up with prayer or some other things, okay? So, again, the process of subgrouping your small group. You know how you want to format, you know how you're going to go about it, but how does it actually happen? 3 tips for subgrouping your small group. You know why you want to do it, you know how to, you know what it looks like, things like that. Here's 3 basic tips for subgrouping your small group. Number 1, don't ask for leaders. So don't just get up there, announce to the group, we're going to start subgrouping our small group this week, and I need 3 leaders to facilitate a subgrouped small group. And the reason is no one's going to volunteer, and the people that do raise their hand probably aren't the people you really want to do it, right? So you want to look for, so don't ask for leaders. That's the first tip. Second, you want to look for good potential facilitators, right? So look for people that are faithful in attending each week. Look for people that pay attention during the group. Look for people that bring a Bible with them and they're looking up the scriptures on their own and interacting on their own. Look for people that come with a study guide where they've actually done some work and done a little preparation for the group discussion. So don't ask for leaders. Look for potential facilitators in that way. And lastly, you want to assign people into your subgroup, small groups. So don't just say, we're going to subgroup now, find a smaller group and talk amongst yourselves. No, you got to be assertive and direct. You look this way and you say, you 3 people, I want you to go in the kitchen and talk together. You 3 people are going to stay here in the living room. And me and these 2 people, we're going to go into the dining room and talk about these questions, right? So be assertive, be direct, be kind and loving too, but just be clear with what you're expecting from them. So I hope this was a helpful video for you about subgrouping your small group. When you have 9 or more people in your small group, it's a great idea to start subgrouping your small group into smaller groups of 3 or 4, whatever that might look like. Or you could even do it as simply as just splitting up the men and the women together into groups. That's okay too. So the idea is to make sure everybody gets a chance to talk, everybody gets a chance to discuss among themselves, and that your group continue to grow and have new people, but still remain small and intimate. So my name's Christopher Scott. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it was helpful for you. If you want to learn more and subscribe to this channel and get updates, you can subscribe up there. I got a bunch of other small group facilitator tips in a playlist up there. If you want to learn to use the Wiersbe Bible Study Guides like I talked about, I got some of those videos over there. And then if you want some brief 5-minute introductions to books of the Bible, I got some of those videos over there. Thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you again soon in another video.